Homelessness in Grants Pass. Starting around 2013, the Grants Pass City Council adopted a deliberate posture towards unhoused residents, with Council President Lily Morgan stating, "The point is to make it uncomfortable enough so they will want to move on down the road." Between 2013 and 2018, the city issued roughly 500 citations for public sleeping, camping, or sleeping in vehicles, with fines reaching into the hundreds, despite a severe lack of affordable housing. In 2018, a class action lawsuit was filed on behalf of Deborah Blake in Grants Pass v. Johnson. In 2020, a district court found that Grants Pass's anti-camping ordinances violated both the 8th and the 14th Amendments, since the city lacked suitable shelter options. In June 2024, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled in City of Grants Pass v. Johnson, reversing prior protections and holding that local governments may enforce camping bans even when no alternative shelter is available. This landmark ruling overturned earlier Ninth Circuit precedent and emboldened other municipalities to adopt stricter enforcement policies nationwide. In response to the ruling, the city opened 2 designated campsites in August 2024. In late 2024, Grants Pass approved its first real low-barrier shelter to be operated by Mint. The grant was for $660,000 for the nonprofit to buy 2 properties to create low-barrier shelters. This grant was terminated immediately upon the new city council taking office. In June 2025, Councilor Indra Nicholas said of the January decision, "It does seem like we're back to where we were. It does seem like some time is wasted and perhaps mistakes were made." No shit. Now the city is offering a $1.2 million grant that 4 organizations have applied for. The application period closed on July 18th, 2025, but as of this recording, no group has been chosen as the winner of the grant. Notably, Mint did not reapply. The new city council also closed the larger of the 2 camps that they had just opened in August. The only remaining campsite is restricted to overnight camping only from 5 p.m. to 7 a.m. This means all of the unhoused individuals, including those with disability, have to pack up all of their stuff and be out of there without any adequate shelter alternatives. This prompted a lawsuit from Disability Rights Oregon and the Oregon Law Center on January 30th, 2025, arguing the policies violated both state objectively reasonable standards and discriminated against disabled unhoused residents. Today, an estimated 300 to 600 people in Grants Pass remained unhoused, with only 1 high-barrier shelter in town operated by a faith-based organization with strict rules, forcing many individuals to rely on encampments or risky living situations. There have been 2 major updates in the last 2 weeks, sort of a good news, bad news situation. Let's start with the good news. Oregon House Bill 3644, and it was signed into law on July 17th, 2025. HB 3644 sets up a permanent statewide shelter system instead of relying on emergency money or temporary programs. This bill makes shelter and housing coordination a long-term responsibility of the state through the Oregon Housing and Community Services Department. Here's what it means in plain terms. Every part of the state, including rural areas like ours, will have a regional shelter coordinator. This coordinator will probably be a local nonprofit. The coordinator will work with cities like Grants Pass and service providers across Josephine County to create a regional plan to address homelessness. That includes deciding where shelters are to be built, who they will serve, and how the funding is spent. State funding will be tied to performance and accountability. To receive money, shelters have to meet basic standards, like staying open year-round, using harm reduction approaches, and helping people move into permanent housing. At least 70% of the funding must go to low-barrier shelters. What's a low-barrier shelter? It means people can come as they are without needing to be sober or go through a long list of requirements first. It's about helping people off the streets safely, not turning them away. Now for the bad news. On July 24th, 2025, President Trump signed a sweeping executive order called Ending Crime and Disorder on America's Streets. It sounds like a promise to reduce crime, but what it really does is target the poor, the mentally ill, and the unhoused. And nowhere will its impact be more immediate and more devastating than right here in Grants Pass. This order incentivizes cities to punish homelessness by redirecting federal funding only to communities that strictly enforce bans on camping, loitering, and public sleeping. In Grants Pass, we've already seen the effects of that approach. Now, this executive order will reward that cruelty with money. Grants Pass notoriously rejected money from the Biden administration, but they will no doubt create a homeless Hunger Games if it means getting money from Trump. This order encourages forced hospitalization of people with mental illness or addiction, stripping away due process and civil liberties under the guise of treatment. For the people living in Baker Park or sleeping near the Rogue River, it won't mean help. It will mean handcuffs, fines, or institutionalization. Worse still, the order bans harm reduction, cutting support for programs like needle exchanges and overdose prevention that actually saves lives. It treats homelessness not as a housing crisis, but as a criminal one. Let's be clear. Grants Pass already made national headlines for trying to fine and jail people just for sleeping outside. Now the federal government is saying, do more of that, and we'll pay you for it. This is not about public safety. It's about punishing poverty. But we can still resist. We can still demand that Grants Pass invest in permanent supportive housing, mental health care, low barrier shelters, and real community-based solutions. Because what ends crime and disorder isn't cruelty, it's compassion, justice, and housing. If we do nothing, the City Council is likely to remove the proposed grant entirely. We must hold them accountable and let our voices be heard that we want a compassionate, low barrier shelter here in Grants Pass.